Okay जी, okay. So uh, now ये किसी का साउंड आ रहा है पीछे से.
ये जो हनुमंतराव जी का आ रहा है.
हाँ
ఎక్కడో సౌండ్ వస్తా ఉంది, దయచేసి మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి.
హనుమంతరావు గారు
దయచేసి మ్యూట్ చేయండి.
హనుమంతరావు గారు మ్యూట్ అవ్వాలి.
ప్లీజ్ మ్యూట్ చేయండి.
जी.
దయచేసి మ్యూట్ చేస్తే క్లాస్ నిశ్శబ్దంగా అందరికి బాగా వినపడుతుంది. థ్యాంక్ యూ.
Okay. So today I was very happy that almost everybody has tried to give answer to the query, and that's a very good thing, a good effort. Though nobody has got to the exact timings yet, approximately close to that time. Now, if you are doing it even up to close to that time, that is good enough for to start with the predictions, right? So it's a good sign. I hope if you follow the rules strictly, what I discuss with your class, you will definitely reach to the conclusions, and of course you will get to the right date time of prediction. So today's the chart which I have posted, the details for which I have posted in the group, I'm going to post the same chart and discuss with you, and kindly keep your papers ready with you on which you have drafted that how you have predicted it, so that you may, if you are committing at some particular point, if you are committing a mistake, so you can know that what is the kind of mistake you are doing, right? So it would be important. So be ready with your papers and with the draft which you have already made while making the prediction to this chart. So first of all, now let me post the chart to post the chart. So this is the chart, and the details for the chart is that the time of birth is 13th of January 1964, and the rectified time for it is given. It is 1921 25 125, and what we need to do is we have to predict the marriage date and the date of the first childbirth, and then we were to predict that how many children does this native have with him. Is it two, is it three, is it four, or is it more than that, right? So the native belongs to Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh. The longitude and latitude for which I have already given in the chart. Now, for this particular chart, there are the first important point. If you look at the ascendant of this chart, the ascendant of the chart is rising in the sign of Cancer, and the lord of Cancer is Moon. And the seventh cusp, I'm talking about. Now I'm starting with how to predict the marriage for this particular native. Okay. Now the very first point which is important is while analyzing the chart for the marriage, you have to focus. The first point of interest, the first point you have to focus upon is you have to look at the ascendant. Now here in the present case, the ascendant is rising in the sign of Cancer, and the lord of Cancer is Moon. And then at the same time, the seventh house, because we are going to predict the event of marriage, so the seventh house rises in the sign of Capricorn, the lord of which is Saturn. It means that Moon and Saturn, they are the lords of the ascendant as well as the seventh house. Now, this kind of an arrangement means there is a Punarfu Yoga, a strong Punarfu Yoga. And for such natives, now the first point is that whenever you find a chart in which the ascendant is 4 and the seventh lord is 10, that is the seventh lord is Capricorn, 4 and 10 relation is there, then there is a Punarfu Yoga. The marriage of such a native will not take place at the normal age, it will be a delayed marriage. Now, the delayed marriage means that if I am to talk about the female charts, the marriage may be something around 26 to 28 years. And if I talk about the male charts, it can vary from 26 to 32 years. The second point is that suppose the ascendant is Leo 5. Now, if the ascendant is Leo, then the seventh lord will be Aquarius, that is Saturn. The sign would be Aquarius. 511 combination also means that there would be a delayed marriage, and in such cases, the marriage happens after the age of 26 years. So, two important points which you all always need to keep in mind. The third point, if Saturn is placed in the seventh house and there is no beneficial planet placed in the ascendant, then the marriage of such native is another indication that it is a delayed marriage. Now, here Mars and Saturn are present, so the marriage is delayed, but it is not beyond 30 years of age, it is something in between 26 to 30 years of age. If for the same arrangement Jupiter is present in the ascendant, or Jupiter is present over here in sign number 4, and there is no planet placed in the seventh house, then it indicates that such a native may have an early marriage. So, these 4 points you always need to keep in mind, and these are applicable. I already pointed out that you can't say 100% of charts, so you can say is around 90% of charts. This principle is applicable. 410 combination, delayed marriage after 26 years of age. For a female, 26 to 28 years. For a male, 26 to 32 years. Now, 410 combination, Jupiter is present as an ascendant. Jupiter is present over here. Then, such a native will have an early marriage. 410 arrangement, and only Saturn is present in the seventh house. It is a delayed marriage, and such a marriage is again around 28 to 30 years. Now, if Moon is present here in the ascendant and Saturn is present in the seventh house, then it is a very, very strong Punarhu Yoga, and such natives usually get married in the age between 32 to 36 years. Now, is this point clear, please? This is the first point. Now, why did I say that? Now, in the present case, the combination is 410. Saturn is sitting. Saturn is posited in its own sign, Capricorn sign, in the seventh house. Is a case of delayed marriage. So, which means that the marriage cannot happen before 26 years of age. Is it okay, please? So, the very first thing you need to focus is you have to look at the ascendant, you have to look at the seventh house, and you have to see that whether there is any Punarpu Yoga or not. Now, in cuspal theory, Khullarji has not given any idea to the Punarpu Yoga, though in the Kalamsa he has written about the Punarpu Yoga, but in cuspal interlink theory he is not using this Punarpu Yoga. But I, for analysis of the charts, always use this rule because there is nothing wrong using this rule. It is a kind of help we can have to have an assessment of the approximate age of the native when he is going to get married. Is this point clear, please? So,
Yes, sir.
in
Yes,
the
sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
okay, so it is 410 combination. Take it granted after 26 years. Saturn in the seventh house, take it granted. For male, it is 28 to 30 years. And if Moon is present in the Lagna and Saturn in the seventh house, then take it for granted. It has to be beyond 32 years of age. If only Jupiter is present in the Lagna, no planet is placed in the seventh house, same combination, then such a native may have an early marriage. Okay. And now, if the combination is 5 and 11, then you can say that the marriage will happen after 26 years of age. Is it okay? So it can be 26th year, it can be 27th year, it can be 28th year. That would depend upon the combination of what is dasha, what is bhukti, what is antra. But in any case, 26 years is the minimum age, beyond which the person will get married. So in this particular chart, the combination is 410 with Saturn posited in the seventh house, which now, if you look at the natal bhava chart, Saturn is present along with Venus in the seventh chart. Okay, Venus is the karka of the marriage for males. So this means that this native is going to get married in 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 the years something between 26 to 30 years. Is it okay? Right. Now, if I take 26 years as the minimum age when this person is going to get married, this I am taking because of the presence of Venus. Had there been Saturn only, I would have started from 28 years. Now, 26 years of age is the minimum age when this native is likely to get married. So, what I do is I just move on to the transit chart. In the transit chart, 26 added to 1964 means it would be 13th of January 1990, and the timing is 19. Let me say I take it as 25.
అయ్యా దయచేసి మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి, దయచేసి మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి, అందరికీ విజ్ఞప్తి. ఓకే సార్.
Okay, Ji, okay. So I would take the date as 13 January 1919, same time 1925, 19 hours 25 minutes, and this is the year before which the marriage cannot happen. Okay. Now, after fixing this point, looking at the transit, I will have to first of all analyze. If you remember, what did I say? First, we have to look into the Punarpuyo, decide about the tentative age for the marriage. Then, after that, we have to look into the cuspal links table to find out that which among these planets are having a good strength to give the event of marriage. Now, before looking into the left hand side of this chart, I would first focus upon the right hand side because this will give me the planetary strength. Look at Sun 2 6, no involvement of 5, no 7, no 11, no 3, no 9. What does it mean? Sun is not effectively a good planet to allow the event of marriage. Okay, so Sun is not a planet which can act as a Dasha Lord, which can act as a Bhukti Lord, which can act as a Antra Lord, although it may play a role in the transit. Next is Moon. Moon is involvement 5 7 11, commitment 5 7 11, and then it is 5. Final confirmation, Moon is okay. Next planet is Mars. Mars is again the same situation as Sun. No involvement of 5 7 11, so we will also discard Mars and we will say Mars is even not a good planet that will allow the event of the marriage. Then the next planet is Mercury, 5 7 11, 7, and then it is 5. Mercury is okay, can allow the event of marriage. Take the case of Jupiter, it is 5 and 11 involvement, 5 7 11 commitment. It is giving a promise of marriage. It can act as a Dasha Lord. Okay. And if any person gets married in the period of Jupiter, then that period of Jupiter will also lead to the separation of the person. We cannot say it will not allow marriage. We will say it is giving a promise of the marriage. And if a person unfortunately gets married in this particular period, then the final confirmation of Jupiter is through the Sub-sublord Sun, which is giving 2 and 6, and both these are negative houses to the 7, which means there is every likelihood that if a person is getting married in this particular period, then it may eventually lead to the separation of the native from her partner, from his or her partner. Okay, so Sun is not good, Mars is not good, Jupiter is not good, Venus involving 5, commitment by 5, 7, 11, and final confirmation 5, 11 is okay. Saturn involving 5, 7, committing by 7 and 5, 11, it is okay. Rahu 5, 11, and then again sublord is Sun, and Sun is giving 2 and 6. So it means involvement of 5 and 11 is there, and commitment by 2, 6. Commitment by 6 means that even this planet will not allow the event of marriage. And then finally K2, it is 5, 7, 11, 5, and then it is 5, 7, 11. So out of this list of 9 planets, Sun is one, Mars is the second planet, Jupiter is the third planet, and Rahu is the fourth planet, which will not allow the event of marriage if these planets act as Dasha Lord, as Bhukti Lords, and as Antara Lords. Okay, so the planets that we have with us, which can cause this event of marriage, they are Moon is one, Mercury is the other, Venus is the third one, Saturn is the fourth one, and Ketu is the fifth one. Now, if we look into the potential of the planets from the left hand side of this table, it is very clear the Sun is very, very weak. It has a very, very weak potential. It can allow separation, but what will not allow the event of the marriage, which means Sun will not help even during the transit of the planets. Moon, it is 3, 7, 11 along with 1, and along with 5, there is no negative planet except 10, and 10 alone means nothing. So, Moon is a very good planet with a strong potential to give the event of marriage. Mars, we have already discarded. Mercury, Mercury is 135, 135. Okay, and then along with Mercury, in Mercury you have 4 and 12. So 4 is neutral. See, for the seventh house, the fourth house is 10th house. And as per cuspal interlink theory, 4, 8, and 12, they will be 2, 6, and 10 to the seventh house. So they will be taken as neutral houses. Thereby, Mercury is also okay because it is giving me 1, 3, 5, and 12. And 12, it is a neutral house because 12 is 6 to the 7th house is a neutral house. So 4 and 12 are neutral. 1, 3, and 5, they are all positive houses. Therefore, Mercury is also positive to enact the event of marriage. Jupiter, we have already discarded. Then Venus. Venus is giving 2, 6, 10 at the star level, along with 1, 5, 7, 3, 2, 6, 10. 2, 6, 10 are three such houses which will negate the marriage, which means that if Moon appears at the sublevel for any of these planets, then it shall make that planet a weak planet to cause the event of marriage. I don't say it will not allow the event of marriage. It will allow the event of marriage, but such a planet cannot become the Bhukti Lord. Now take the case of Moon. In Moon, at the sublevel, which is Venus, Venus is the sublord. It is giving 2, 6, and 10, along with 5, 7, and 11, both the negative as well as positive houses. So the final decision is to be made by the sublord, which is giving me 1, 3, 5, 9, along with 6 and 12. 1, 6, and 12 means is the overall strength of Moon is not very good. It's an average planet. So it can act as a Dasha Lord, but this planet will never act as a Bhukti Lord. Okay. Is it clear up to this point? Similarly, you take the case of
Yes.
Jupiter 2, 6, and 10. It will, it has, we have already discarded Jupiter because Jupiter is in the sub of Sun, and which is 2 and 6. It will not allow the event of marriage. So, here also, if you look at the sub level, Ketu is giving 2, 6, and 10, which means Jupiter is a very, very weak planet. Right. So out of the list of these planets, now we can check the potential of the planets, and at the same time we can check the planetary strength, and we can find out that which planets can cause the event of the marriage. Okay, so we are with five planets: Moon, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, and Ketu, which can effectively cause the event of the marriage. Okay, so let us now move back to our chart. Now, then let us check the transit. I've already pointed out that the year in which the marriage can happen will only be after 13th of January 1990. Right? And if I check the transit at this particular moment of time, what you find is the dasha lord is moon. Right? I have already pointed out through the cuspal interlink table that moon is not a strong planet. Now, for any planet to be dasha lord, what is important? It has to be either neutral or it has to be positive. So moon is positive, it is not negative, though at the sub level it is giving us 2, 6, and 10 along with 5, 7, and 11. So it's a average planet, can act as a dasha lord. It means the marriage of this native is likely to happen in the dasha of moon. Okay, so moon dasha will extend from 13th of March 1988 up to 14th of March 1998. So the marriage is likely to happen in this particular period. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Is it okay? This is how you find out that why it should be moon, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Now the next rule, the next point is to check out that amongst all these planets, which can be a suitable bhukti lord. Okay. Now, what is the rule for bhukti lord? The rule for bhukti lord is that we need to first of all give preference to the co-rulers of the seventh cusp. If the seventh cusp co-rulers don't fit into to be the bhukti lords, then we have to focus on the fifth cusp co-rulers, and eventually, and in the last, we have to focus upon the 11th cusp co-rulers. Now, to check the bhukti lord, that which can be effectively a planet that can act as a bhukti lord, we also need to focus upon what? We need to focus upon the transit of two slow moving planets. One is Saturn and the second one is Jupiter. Okay. In my last class also, in my last two classes also, I pointed out that the transit of Saturn and the transit of Jupiter, both of which are slow moving planets, is very, very important. So the first important thing which we need to do here is to fix the transit of Saturn. Now, if you remember what I have already, you know, stated in my previous classes, I have been emphasizing on the same point. Look at Saturn. On 13 January 1990, Saturn was transiting in the sixth house in the Sagittarius sign, which is 12th to the Capricorn, 12th to its sign. Is it okay? So, what does it mean? That the transit of Saturn, as long as it stays in this house, it cannot allow the event to happen. Right?
Yes,
Is
sir.
it okay? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
See, this is what I told you in the last two classes, that whenever you have to see the transit of slow moving planets, then the slow moving planet should not be 12th or 8th to its sign. And if it is 12th and 8th to its sign, it will not allow, it will not permit the event to happen. So here, Saturn is 12th to its sign, Capricorn. Therefore, the event will not happen till Saturn from this Sagittarius sign moves into the Capricorn sign. Now, Saturn here is of 23 degrees 22 minutes, which means approximately 3 4 months will be required when it will be transiting into the next sign. So, what I do, I will now have to add, I will have to advance the transit by 1 month each because 23 degree means approximately 3 4 months time. Saturn will shift on to the next sign. So, if I forward it here it is. On 13th of April 1990, Saturn will shift into, transit into its own sign, which is Capricorn. Now, here a question may arise, and I still remember, I think it was Madhuji who asked me this question, emphasizing that there are charts where when a planet is transiting in 12th to its sign, it is a favorable transit. Look here in this case. Now, this is the important point. You can write down in your notebooks. Since we are talking here about the seventh house, which is the primary house for the marriage, thereby the transit of Saturn in this house, the primary house, though it is falling 12th to the 11th sign, it will be a favorable transit. Is it clear? If the sign, now Saturn here is transiting in the seventh house, which is the primary house, and the sign falling in the seventh house is 10th, that is Capricorn, whose lord is Saturn, and Saturn here is 12th to its Aquarius sign. So, which means that this particular transit should not be permissible. But now this is what you need to keep in mind, that whenever the transit of Saturn takes place in the primary house of the event, then even if it is falling 12th or 8th to its sign, the event is likely to happen. Is it clear?
Sir, kindly repeats of this one.
Okay. What I stated in my previous two classes, that whenever any planet is transiting in 8th or 12th position to its sign. For example, if moon is transiting in Gemini sign, which is 12th to the Cancer sign, it will not allow the event to happen. If moon is transiting in Aquarius sign, which is 8th to the 4th sign, it will now the not allow the event to happen. So whenever any planet transits 8th or 12th to its sign, the event is not likely to fructify because it will not allow the event to happen. What is now the second point that I stated was that whenever the planet, slow moving planet, is transiting in the primary house. Now, the primary house for the marriage is the seventh house. Okay. And the sign here is 10th, that is 10 sign. And this Saturn, if it is transiting here, it is 12th to the 11th sign, which means the transit of Saturn in this sign should not be allowed. It should not permit the event to happen, as to what I have stated earlier. But what is important in such cases, whenever Saturn is transiting in the primary house, even if in that particular house it is in a position 8th or a position 12th to its sign, that particular transit is allowed and it will allow the event to happen. Okay, is it clear?
Sir, do we need to see this in Rashi chart or Bhava chart, sir?
Rashi chart, not the Bhava chart.
Thank you, sir.
Rashi chart only. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Because we are talking of signs now. We are
Yes, sir.
talking
Yes,
of
sir.
sign and sign, so we have to talk about the planetary positions in signs. So that is why we have to take the Rashi chart. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So the transit of Saturn is permissible over here, though Saturn is transiting 12th to its sign. Why? Because Saturn is transiting in the primary cusp. Therefore, it will allow the event to happen. Okay. So now what we have done is we have fixed the transit of Saturn. So the transit of Saturn in its own sign will be favorable. It is transiting in the primary house. It will be allowed, though it is falling 12 to its sign. Right? Now, after fixing the transit of Saturn, we have to fix the transit of Jupiter. Now, when I fix the transit of Saturn, okay, that is on 13th of April 1990, right? Then what is the Bhukti Lord which I am getting here? Rahu. Am I right?
Sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. Bhukti Lord which I am getting here is Rahu. What we have discussed, that Rahu is a very, very weak planet. It will not allow the event to happen. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Now we will focus upon Rahu. Rahu represents Mercury and Rahu. Right. Mercury is a favorable planet for the event. Mercury, if you look at Mercury,
Hmm. Yes, sir.
if you
Ah,
look at
Mercury favorable.
Mercury, it's a favorable planet for the event.
Yes, yes, favorable. Mercury is favorable.
Okay, Mercury is favorable. Now Rahu is totally unfavorable, will not allow the event to happen. Mercury is favorable. If I substitute Mercury, will it allow the event to happen? If I substitute Mercury here, will it allow the
Yes,
event
sir.
to happen?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir. It will allow.
No. Now, why did I say no? There are two reasons for it.
Hmm.
The
It's
first,
already the phase is over.
the first reason is that Rahu is Mercury and Rahu, double Rahu with Mercury. Okay, it means the strength of Rahu is very, very less. Though Mercury is allowing the event to happen, Rahu here is double Rahu with Mercury, very, very weak. Secondly, the position of Jupiter and the transit of Jupiter is not favorable, therefore, it will not allow the event to happen. So, we have to, to fix the bhukti, we need to first of all fix the transit of Saturn and then we have to focus upon the transit of Jupiter, right? The transit of Jupiter. Now, the transit of Jupiter in Gemini sign, the lord of which is Mercury, is not favorable. It is not favorable. Okay. कोई क्वेश्चन है यहाँ तो if somebody
Yes,
has a
sir.
question he can ask.
सर फिर बताइए सर फिर बताइए.
Okay, so it is not favorable.
Jupiter is
Though
transiting in the sixth house also, sir, from
huh,
seventh house. So we will not consider it.
no. Yes, you can say like that, but Mercury from its own sign is in fourth. It is in fourth position. 4, 8, and 12 they are not good.
Yes,
Okay, so the transit of Jupiter in
will not.
the sign of Mercury is not good, right? So what we
Yes.
will do is Jupiter. Now the rule is that Jupiter should somehow be related to Saturn. That is one, either through position or through aspect or through conjunction. Okay. Now this rule is not followed in the cuspal interlink theory. Is it okay? Is it fine?
Sir,
This
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For Jupiter, what are the houses favorable, sir?
the for Jupiter the Lagan, that is the ascendant, the first
Okay,
house, that is favorable.
okay.
Okay, the first house is favorable, right? Now, for all slow moving planets, what we
Now,
need to do
out of
is
12 houses,
see,
which houses are
look here. Now, look here. Another way to find out that why the transit of Jupiter is not favorable over here. Jupiter here is transiting in the sign of Mercury. Am I right? It is transiting in the sign of Mercury, which is okay.
Yes, sir.
And
Okay, sir.
it is transiting in the sign in the star of Rahu.
Rahu again.
Rahu again. So it will not allow the event to happen till I change Rahu to Jupiter. Okay. Even if I change Rahu to Jupiter, because in the sign of Gemini, you have three stars. One is Mars, second is Rahu, and the third is Jupiter. Am I right? Is it okay?
Hmm.
Now,
Yes,
out
sir.
of three stars, Mars has already passed. The next star is Rahu. Rahu, we have already discussed, will not allow the event to happen. Rahu will not allow the event to happen. We have already discussed is a very, very weak planet. So if Jupiter transits in the star of Rahu, the event will not happen. It will not fructify. After Rahu, if I change it to Jupiter, then Jupiter in its own star will
Own
also
sign.
not allow the it will not allow the event to happen. Why? Because we have already discussed that we have got how many planets? Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Rahu, which will not allow the event to happen. Am I right? We already discussed this in the cuspal interlink table. Okay. So it means I am left with now Jupiter here. So as long as Rahu and Jupiter are acting as the star lords, the event is not likely to happen. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right. Is it clear? So, here the transit of Jupiter in the sign of Gemini will not allow the event to happen because, in spite of the fact that Mercury, the transit in the sign of Mercury is okay, but the transit of Jupiter in the star of Rahu, which is a very, very weak planet, which does not signify the necessary cusp for the event of marriage, this event will not happen. After Rahu, it will move to Jupiter, which will again not allow to happen. Now, then it will move to the next sign, which is Cancer sign. In the Cancer sign, the first star is Jupiter. It will not allow the event to happen. And the second star is Saturn. After that, it is Mercury. So the event may happen in that period of time. Okay? Is it clear? Any doubts?
Clear, sir. Clear.
Okay. So what I do is I will have to change Rahu from this position. So I advance it by 1 month. Again, still Rahu is there. By another month, Jupiter is there. Again, I forward it by one more month. Jupiter is still there. Again, I forward it. I get Saturn. Right? Jupiter is in the Cancer sign. The Jupiter star stays up to 3 degrees 20 minutes. So it is all 5 degrees 16 minutes, and I've got the star of Saturn. And Jupiter from the Gemini sign has moved into the Cancer sign. And when it moves into the Cancer sign, then what happens? Saturn here is retrograde, is also acting from this house. So Jupiter and Saturn, they are aspecting. Jupiter is aspecting Saturn. So the requisite or the essential or the important condition that is satisfied and this transit of Jupiter happens to be okay. Right? Is it okay? But after having fixed the position of Jupiter here, Bhukti Lord is again the same. It is Rahu. I cannot have Rahu as the Bhukti Lord. So I will change. I cannot have Rahu as the Bhukti Lord. I cannot have Jupiter as the Bhukti Lord. I will have to take Saturn as the Bhukti Lord, and Saturn as Bhukti Lord will appear on which date? 13/6/1992. So the shortcut method to get to the date for the event of marriage is that I will have to jump over from Rahu, Jupiter straight to Saturn, because Rahu and Jupiter both are the planets which will not allow the event to happen. Okay. Now
सर मून में मून क्यों नहीं आ रहा है?
मून तो बाद में लेंगे ना. मून तो we will take in the last. We have to first of all fix Saturn, then we have to fix Jupiter. Now here what you find is another important point I can tell you here is that in the ascendant you have which planet? Ketu, right?
केतु
Ketu is there, so take it for granted. In again I would say maximum number of charts, if Ketu appears in the lagna, then it never permits the event to happen till Ketu shifts from this position. Okay, I just leave this point. Back to the cuspal theory. Rahu is not allowing the event to happen. Jupiter is not allowing the event to happen. Saturn, the transit in Saturn, the Saturn selecting Saturn as the Bhukti Lord will allow the event to happen, and Saturn as Bhukti Lord will appear on 13th of June 1992. So I will have to change it from 13/8/1919 to 13/6. I will have to change it from 13/6 and it will be 1992. 13/6/1992, and the time is
10:52.
003. It is 22. I will take 25. Okay. And then I calculate. Saturn appears as the Bhukti Lord. Okay. Now Saturn appears at the Bhukti Lord. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Now the position of Saturn is again the same. Same house, seventh house. It is connected to the seventh house. And Jupiter has shifted to the second house. And Saturn here is retrograde, therefore is also acting from the previous sign. Am I right? And if it is acting from the previous sign, Jupiter and Saturn, Jupiter is aspecting Saturn. So the necessary condition, the essential condition that is fulfilled, the transit of both Jupiter and Saturn is okay. Right? Now the question is that which antara we need to select. So the next antara is Saturn. Saturn is, if you look at Saturn, it's a strong planet.
Yes, sir.
Saturn is a strong planet. It is giving me 7, 8, and 9. It has a good potential. 7, 8, and 9. It has PS, good potential. And at the same time, if you look at the Bhava chart, Saturn is present in the seventh house. Seventh house. Now, Saturn is also appearing as the sign lord of the seventh. Is a co-ruler of the seventh. Posted in the seventh house with a PS. Therefore, Saturn can be repeated. Any planet can be repeated. We have discussed it number of times. Any planet can be repeated if the planet appears in the primary cusp as well as in the supporting cusp. It is associated with all the three cusps. Here Saturn is appearing as a sign lord of the seventh cusp. It is not present in the fifth cusp. It is not present in the 11th cusp. But since Saturn with PS is posted in the seventh house, it is a very, very strong planet, along with Venus, which is also posted in the seventh house. But since Venus has got no PS, so the strength of Venus as compared to Saturn is very, very less. So, though Venus is a planet that gives significations of that is significator of the marriage giving houses, as Saturn here is posted in the seventh house, because of this, we can proceed with Saturn as the Bhukti Lord as well as the Antra Lord. We can repeat it. I repeat the rule. In all cases, now what we have discussed earlier also, that any planet, and it is given in the book also, that any planet can be repeated. What is the condition? That it's a co-ruler of the primary house and it is also associated with the supporting houses, all the supporting houses. Only then that planet can be repeated. This is one condition for a planet to be repeated. The second important condition for a planet to be repeated is that number one, it has to be a co-ruler of the primary house. And if at all it is not a co-ruler of the supporting houses, then in such a case, what we need to do? If the same planet with a PS is posted in the primary house, then the same planet can be repeated as the Antra Lord. So the same planet is repeated with, you have to keep in mind two rules. One is that the planet is associated with all the houses, the primary house as well as the supporting house. And if suppose it is not present in all the houses and it is appearing in the primary house, posited in the primary house with APS, then even under these conditions, the same planet can be repeated. So Saturn here can be repeated. Okay. Any doubts?
No doubts.
Right? Is this point clear?
Yes.
Please,
Clear.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
please write it down in your notebooks. It's very important.
Clear, sir.
Now, there has
Yes,
to be no
we are writing,
confusion.
sir. We are
Okay.
writing, sir.
So there has to be no confusion that when it's to be repeated and when it is not to be repeated. Had Saturn not been posted in the seventh house with a PS, I would not have repeated Saturn. I would have shifted on to the next planet, which is Mercury. Okay. So Saturn will be repeated as the Antra Lord. And when I repeat Saturn as the Antra Lord, then the time period I need to fix is Saturn starts on 13/6/1992. 13/6/1992. I've already posted this date over here. And it will stay up to 12/9/1992. It means that the marriage of this native will happen in a period of 13 June 1992 to 12th of September 1992. So we are now left with how many months? We have shortened to how many months? 3 months. Within
3
this
months.
period of 3 months, the marriage is likely to happen. Now, since we have come to the months, thereby now we need to fix the
Sun.
position of Sun. So if I take Saturn as the Antra Lord, now the next important point is we have to fix the Sukshma Lord. If I have to theoretically fix the Sukshma Lord before going into the transit of the Sun, if I have to theoretically fix the Sukshma Lord, what are the rules for fixing the Sukshma Lord? The rule is that the Sukshma Lord should be a co-ruler of the primary cusp. Right? Okay. Preferably, it should be sub-lord. Right? Anyhow, we have 4 planets. We have 3 planets which are co-rulers of the 7th cusp. One is Saturn, second is Moon, and the third one is Venus. So I can have Saturn, I can have Venus, I can have Moon, as per what is given on the basis of the 7th cusp co-rulers. But here, if you remember, in my previous lectures, I pointed out that our first focus has to be on the sub-lord of the 7th house, and the sub-sublord of the 7th house is Venus, right? Then sub-sublord of the 7th house is Venus. Okay, so Venus, we have to see that which are the planets which are present in the star of Venus, because they will all be strongly linked to the 7th sub-sublord. They can all effectively play the role of 7th sub-sublord. That is why we have to focus upon Venus first, and Moon is in the star of Venus, so one planet is Moon. Then you have Ketu is Venus, Mercury is in the star of Venus, second planet is Mercury. Then Ketu is in the star of Venus, the third planet is Venus. It means if I look into the planets which are in the star of Venus, it is Moon, Mercury, and Ketu. So, besides Venus, Mercury, Ketu, and Moon can also act as the Sukshma lords. Okay, try to recollect what I have stated in my previous lectures.
Do we
That
see
whenever you have to select the Sukshma lords, it has to be the 7th cusp co-ruler plus one or all the supporting cusp.
So we should see it in the natal chart, na, sir?
Yes, natal chart. That is all what I am doing. I'm checking it in the natal chart.
No, sir. Natal chart mein Mercury is in Ketu star.
So Ketu is Venus, na? Ketu is representing Venus, na?
Yes.
So
So Mercury,
Saturn for
Ketu is Jupiter.
the Lord.
Ketu is Jupiter and Venus, na?
Sir,
Yes.
Kapilji,
Yes, sir.
Right?
Saturn selected as Sukshma Lord. Those rules are satisfied.
No. It will not. See, it will be triplicated.
What will
For triplication here now, Saturn is posted in the 7th house. We have repeated it, right? Saturn is posted in the 7th house. We have repeated it.
But Saturn
Now,
also is having same strength, na, sir.
no. It to triplicate Saturn, now it has also to be present in the 5th and the 11th house.
Okay.
You can't replicate like that. For triplication, the rule is again slightly modified. And what is the rule? That besides Saturn being a co-ruler, being posted in the 7th house, it has to be a co-ruler of the 5th and the 11th house. Only then it will be triplicated. Otherwise not. It has to be very, very strong to be triplicated. Is it okay? So that is why we are not selecting Saturn as the Sukshma Lord. Now I repeat here, the 7th cusp co-rulers is our first priority to fix the Sukshma Lord. Okay? And here among the Sukshma lords, if you look at Venus, Venus is appearing in 5, it is appearing in 7, it is appearing in 11.
Okay.
So Venus strongly satisfies the condition to become the Sukshma lord. Okay? Right? Is it okay up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the question is, moving from Saturn to Venus, we have also to check whether Mercury and Ketu can act as the Sukshma Lord or not. How do we check it? We have to look into the planets which are in the star of Venus. Had Mercury and Ketu not been in the star of the Venus, we would have rejected these two planets and directly gone over to Venus. Okay. If you listen to what I have already dictated in my previous lectures, I pointed out that any planet which is to act as a Sukshma Lord should be a co-ruler of the primary cusp plus one or both the supporting cusp. Here Venus is co-ruler of 5th cusp, 7th cusp as well as 11th cusp. So it strongly qualifies to act as a Sukshma Lord. Okay. Before Venus, selecting Venus as the Sukshma Lord, we have Mercury and Ketu also. We need to check whether Mercury and Ketu are in the star of Venus or not. And if you find them to be in the star of Venus, then we cannot neglect Mercury and Ketu because they would also be linked to the Venus. Okay, they will also be linked to the Venus, and hence we cannot neglect these planets. So Venus, planets in star of Venus are Moon, that is one. Mercury is the second one, and Ketu is the third one. So Mercury comes prior to Ketu and Venus, thereby we will select Mercury as the Sukshma Lord. Any question up to this point? See,
One
this is
more
very
question,
typical.
sir.
This is very typical. You have to systematically follow this rule.
Finally, sir,
Only
finally,
then.
Mercury selected as a Sukshma Lord.
Yes,
One more repeat, sir, please.
I repeat again. See, look here. The important rule for selecting the Sukshma Lord is that the planet has to be a co-ruler of the seventh
Yes,
cusp
sir. Yes, sir.
plus one or both the supporting cusp.
Yes, sir.
The strongest planet among the co-rulers of the seventh cusp is
Venus.
Venus. Venus is also a co-ruler of the fifth cusp, is co-ruler of the seventh cusp, 11th
Yes,
cusp.
sir. Yes, sir.
It means Venus is a strong planet to be considered as the Sukshma Lord. Okay.
Yes.
So what we have concluded is that Venus can be a Sukshma Lord. Now, when I look into the column of Sukshma Lord, Saturn I cannot select. Right? Saturn cannot be triplicated. I
Okay, sir.
cannot select.
Okay.
Now I have to see whether Mercury and Ketu can be selected at the Sukshma or not. For this purpose, what you need to do, you have to look into the planets. What planets are in the star of Venus?
Venus.
Moon is in the star of Venus, Mercury is in the star of Venus, Ketu is in the star of Venus.
Yes, sir.
What does it mean? Mercury, has already qualified to give the event of marriage.
Okay, sir.
Ketu already qualified to give the event of marriage. Venus
Okay.
qualified to give the event of marriage. Saturn has qualified to give the event of marriage. Am I right? Moon has
Yes, sir.
qualified to give me the event of marriage.
Yes, sir.
Bearing Sun, Mars, Rahu, and Jupiter. What does it mean? That I have to decide that which can be the suitable Sukshma Lord. Now, if a planet is present in the star of the Venus, means it is linked to the planet Venus. So it can also effectively act as a Sukshma Lord because it is strongly linked to Venus. Am I right?
Okay. Okay, sir.
So then the order of the Vimshotri
Mercury
Dasha,
comes. Okay.
Mercury comes first, so I will select Mercury.
Okay, sir.
Right
Okay.
now, I assume this is the point which you never knew, and that is why you did not come to the exact date of marriage.
Sir,
Is it okay?
sir, देख लीजिए Mercury in final confirmation 6 is there. Is there any problem for the Sukshma
No, no,
Lord?
no, 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 nothing doing. See, look here. फाइनल कंफर्मेशन में 6 हो तो उसका मतलब क्या है? What does it mean?
A diverse, maybe.
नहीं, maybe separation is there. 6 and 12 along with 1, maybe divorce can happen. 1, 6 and 12.
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
that the partner is not, cooperative. Maybe there are fights between the husband and the wife.
Unhappy married life.
Unhappy married life. And for this native whose chart I am discussing, they are having an unmarried happy life.
Yes, sir.
Okay, they are having an unmarried happy life. Frequent fights is a common feature of their life.
Okay.
Okay. So this justifies, right? Now back here to the chart, to the transit chart. So it means I have to select Mercury as the Sukshma Lord, right? Now the period of Mercury will start from 27th of June 1992 up to 10th of July 1992. So I will substitute here the date 27 of June 1992, and I will check the transit so as to fix the transit of Sun. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, is
Yes.
the transit of Sun okay here?
Hmm.
If you remember, I have already given the rule to your class last time that we have to focus upon the planets which are posited in the event giving houses. What are the planets? Moon, Mercury, Ketu, Venus, Saturn, Rahu. Okay?
Hmm.
Then the second point I have stated in my previous lecture was that the transit of Sun and Moon is favorable only in the sign of the planets which are posited in the event giving houses. Am I right?
Yes.
If you remember, I have already stated this in my last lecture. Okay? And if you remember, the transit of Moon we have taken on the basis of Moon in Moon. If you remember in the last class, if you check it out, you will find that I've already discussed this point. Now, this is again a very, very important point. See the position of planets in the Bhava chart. That is very important. And if there is no planet present over here, then we have to decide the transit of Saturn, Sun, and Moon on the basis of the position of Jupiter. But since here I have Moon, Moon is the lord of which sign? 4. So the transit in sign 4 is okay. Mercury is which sign? 3 and 6. The transit of Sun in sign 3 and 6 is okay. Ketu has no sign. Rahu has no sign. Venus sign is 2 and 7. The transit of Sun in 2 and 7 is okay. Saturn is 10 and 11. The transit of Sun and Moon in 10 and 11 is okay. Back to our chart. So, what are the signs which were important? 4 for Moon, right? 3 and 6 for Mercury, 2 and 7 for Venus, and 10 and 11 for Saturn. These are the signs in which the transit of Sun and Moon will be favorable. Now, the timing here is for Mercury, it is 1519. So I take it as 1520. Okay. Now here we have Mercury as the Sukshma. Okay. When Mercury is selected as the Sukshma, the transit of Sun is taking place in which sign? Gemini sign. Is it okay? Is it okay? Answer is yes. It is okay. We have already discussed.
In
Yes, sir.
one sign.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mercury suitable.
Mercury, it is sign
It's in
number
one sign.
4, sign number 3, sign number 6, sign number 2, sign number 7, sign number 10, and sign number 11. Right? So the transit of Sun in the sign of Mercury is okay. Right? Is it okay? Now, after fixing this, we have to fix the prana lord. That what can be the prana lord? Now, for the purpose of the prana lord, what we'll have to do? We will have to fix the position of moon. Right? We will have to fix the position of moon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The position of moon has to be fixed. Now, how do we do that? So, we have already discussed. Now, here Sun is transiting in the sign of Mercury, it is okay. Moon is transiting in the sign of Venus, that is Taurus, even it is okay. It is okay, right? Now, how to fix the prana lord? To fix the prana lord, Now I will have to look into
Seventh cusp.
our necessary rule, and the necessary rule is
Seventh.
seventh cusp co-rulers. Okay, seventh cusp co-rulers, and the seventh cusp co-rulers are Saturn, Moon, Venus. Okay, Saturn, Moon, Venus, and Saturn is appearing here. Then you have Moon is here and Venus is here, right?
Yes, sir.
Saturn, Moon, and Venus. Okay, so what I do is that I will select first of all Venus as the prana. Venus prana will appear on which date? 36/1992. Okay, see in the present chart on the date 27th of June 1992, 15 hours 20 minutes, the position of moon is okay. The transit of moon is okay. Now the question is whether this is the date of marriage. To confirm that whether the prana lord which is appearing on 27th of June 1992 is okay or not, it is Mercury. Am I right?
Okay, sir. You can keep like this. Mercury also is suitable,
No, we cannot repeat Mercury.
right?
We cannot repeat Mercury.
2 times you can report, sir.
We cannot repeat Mercury because number one, Mercury is simply a planet which is present in the star of Venus. Right?
What is there? Venus
Look
also.
here. Mercury is not appearing in 7. Mercury is not appearing in 11.
Not a co-ruler of anything.
It is co-ruler of 5th cusp.
Yes, sir.
Co-ruler of 5th cusp, not a co-ruler of 7. Okay. Through Venus it is appearing in 7. So we will not repeat Mercury. Prana Lord we will not repeat. See, rule for Sukshma and Prana are different. Prana laws is to be fixed on the basis of the transit of moon. So the first planet that we need to select here is Venus. Okay. Venus is
Kapil ji.
हाँ जी बोलिए.
Moon is in Taurus. Venus is Lord. What is
नहीं, moon is in Taurus, it is okay na. Venus we have already selected. Venus is present in the 7th cusp.
Yes, sir.
Right? Venus is there in the 7th cusp and we have already selected it. Now the question is we have to justify the prana lord. How to justify the prana lord? We have to look into the co-rulers of the 7th cusp. We have to focus on the co-rulers of the 7th cusp, and the 7th cusp co-ruler is Venus. Now Mercury has already appeared once on the basis of Venus. Try to get this point. Mercury has appeared as a Sukshma lord by virtue of Venus. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Now Mercury cannot be repeated again by virtue of Venus. You can get it only once, not twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times. वो तो फिर वही planet रहेगा ना. It will remain the same planet. It means that you start with Mercury Dasha, Mercury Bhukti, Mercury Antara, Mercury Sukshma, Mercury Prana. It is not going to happen like that. It can happen only once. It will not be repeated. Now, why it is not repeated? Because Mercury itself is not a co-ruler of 7. Why did Mercury appear as a Sukshma Lord? The reason for appearing as a Sukshma Lord was the transit of the Sun, and the second reason was that Mercury was appearing. Mercury is appearing in the star of Venus, and that is why we selected Mercury. Now, since you have selected Mercury once, it cannot be repeated. Because Mercury was selected as a Sukshma Lord by virtue of Venus, now you cannot again select Mercury as a Prana Lord by virtue of Venus. You get this point? You cannot repeat like that.
For only reason virtual Lord.
Yes. So Mercury, since it is not appearing in the 7th cusp, we will not repeat it. Okay. Okay or not?
Okay, sir.
If you have still doubt, you can ask me.
But here, Bhakti Lord and Antara, but for here, Bhakti Lord and Antara Lord, Saturn we have selected for 2 times, na, sir.
Why? Because it was posted, na? It was posted in the 7th cusp. So it was not replicated.
Okay.
Direct corolla.
It was not replicated. It was a co-ruler of the 7th cusp. Secondly, it was posted in the 7th cusp with a PS. That is why it was repeated as the Antra.
Okay.
Mercury appeared as the Sukshma by virtue of Venus. Mercury is not a co-ruler of the 7th cusp, but it appeared as the Sukshma Lord by virtue of Venus. Now, Mercury cannot be repeated as the Prana Lord by virtue of Venus because Mercury is not a co-ruler of the 7th cusp. Is it okay?
Ketu can be.
Right? Mercury cannot be repeated. Now,
Sir.
the first planet that we need to select will be Venus.
Excuse me, sir.
हाँ जी
केतु
बोलिए.
साहब जुपिटर सन का साइन में है ना सर?
हाँ, केतु भी रिपीट नहीं करेंगे ना हम. केतु भी 5th में नहीं है, 7th में नहीं है.
जुपिटर का साइन सर, जुपिटर
किसमें?
का साइन सन में है ना?
By virtue of Venus, Ketu cannot come.
सी जुपिटर सन के साइन में है. मैंने
और
पहले बोला
sun
था
is
कि
not- sun is not connected anyway to 7th
but
house.
sun will play a role in the transit ना. ये तो I have already pointed out right in the beginning that sun is not a suitable planet which can affect the marriage, but it will take part in the transit. Transit में हम क्या important देखते हैं? What is
Not even
important
this
in transit?
time.
The important point while looking into the transit is, suppose like if you remember कि हमने अभी डिस्कस किया था कि Jupiter was transiting in the sign of Mercury, okay, and Mercury was allowing the event to happen, but it was transiting in a star which did not permit the event to happen. Now Jupiter here is transiting in a sign of Sun, which is a very weak planet, which is not giving significations of the event giving houses, but at the same time it is transiting in the star of Venus, which is a strong significator of the marriage giving houses. That is why the transit of Jupiter in the sign of Sun is okay. See, it always, if you remember, in my previous lectures also, I have pointed out that for all slow moving planets, the first point is we have to look for the sign. After looking into the sign, we have to look for the position of these planets in the transit, how they are linked to each other, and then we have to focus upon the stars in which the planets are transiting. And for all slow moving planets, for Saturn, we focus upon the sublord and the sub-sublord. Suppose sign lord is not favorable, star lord is not favorable, but if sublord and sub-sublord is favorable, we will say the transit is okay. For Jupiter, if the sign is not okay and the star is okay, we will say the transit is okay. Now look here, Jupiter is transiting in the sign of Sun. Okay, Sun is not permitting, Sun is not a strong significator of the event, because Sun is involving only 2 and 6, but it is committing to 5, 7, 11. Then Jupiter is transiting in the star of Venus, in the sub of Venus, as well as in the sub of Ketu, and both Venus and Ketu are strong significator of the marriage giving event. Am I right? So it will allow the event to happen.
Sir,
हाँ जी.
this Jupiter is transiting 8th